Okay, so after Indonesia, we flew back to Singapore, and therein started 2 weeks of very intense teaching schedule that was really quite amazing. I mean, the schedule was intense in Indonesia, and then it just continued on into Singapore. So I spoke the first night at a Thai temple, which was really nice. I've done that for a few years now, and the people are quite open and receptive. And it's kind of an interesting situation because you come in and the monk is there. He's in another building, one of the monks there, and people are coming to him, you know, for amulets and advice, and in the very traditional kind of communal way, the way the you know, monks were kind of the therapists and counselors, and you know, in traditional societies where they didn't have counselors and so on. So giving advice to people and, you know, giving out things and blessing them and all. And then I was giving a talk on, forget what it was, something else, you know, in the other building. And then there started the series of talks at Kongmingsu Pokasi Monastery, which is the largest and richest monastery in Singapore. Very beautiful, and I've known the abbot there since he was way before he was the abbot. So we have quite a friendly relationship, and you know, so there were 3 evening talks, and then for the weekend we went to stay at the monastery. You know, other times we were staying at Pure Land Marketing with our friends there, which was a very, very nice place. And because the retreat, you know, started early and ended late each day, then we stayed at that monastery at PKS for the weekend. And it went quite well. It was on Vajrasattva and Bodhicitta, so there were talks and meditations. And what I especially appreciated about this retreat is we got some personal feedback from people. One woman wrote kind of a whole journal about her experience, and then one other woman wrote a letter here kind of telling us what she had learned. And I really appreciate that, because when you have, there were at least 160 people at that retreat, possibly more, but when you have that big of a group, it's impossible to know the effect of, you know, what you're teaching on individuals. Yeah, so it was very nice to hear their feedback, and they seemed to benefit from it. And then the 3 days after that, I was teaching at Taipei Buddhist Center, where I often teach, and the aircon was broken. So we were doing the chapter on fortitude and patience, you know, which was perfect, because you just had to practice fortitude and patience, and you know, 90-degree human weather with broken aircon, and you know, and just thinking about how the people in Singapore used to live before there was so much aircon. Yeah, but also it was interesting because it's in a very key location in the center, so it was, you know, not only opening the doors to let in the air, but to let in the traffic sound, which was really dominant. But they had quite a good PA system, and it was very fun teaching from Shantideva. I always enjoy doing that text. So we were talking about the 3 kinds of fortitude, and yeah, it's a really good topic. And then for the 3 days after that, there were teachings again back at PKS, this time designed for young adults, but they eventually opened it up to everybody. So there were, you know, I don't know, 150, 200 people at every talk, but most of them young people, which was really nice. And so I was supposed to talk about 7 tips for a happier life, but you know, you can't write everything up in 7 tips. And so I was going, you know, the topics were meshing together and going on top of each other and everything like that. But I think it was helpful to them, yeah. And then, let's see, and then the day that ended, that day we also had a get-together for my 35th ordination anniversary. And I didn't know that they were going to do this big thing, and it was a big thing. And we walked in the room, and they're all in kind of almost a whole circle with what appeared to be one long kata as they were tying and stitching katas together. It was really very, very sweet. And they were singing songs that we had sung, 25 years ago when I used to go to the Buddhist the groups at the polytechnics and the universities. And so some of these people, form the basis of FOSA now in Singapore, and many of them were there, and then other people, and it was just so sweet, really, really, really sweet. I was very, very touched by it. And then the following day I spoke at Buddhist Fellowship. Again, the room was stuffed there, and I spoke on the 8 verses of thought transformation. And I knew some of the people there, and I knew what personal problems they were having. Even though, there were about 200 people there, but some of them were sitting up close, and I could watch their faces as they were hearing the teaching. So that was quite good. I think it was helpful to some of them. And then after that, we came back to Pure Land, and the young adults from because there's many Buddhist temples, and they have youth groups, and then the universities and polys have youth groups, and it's all sorts of Buddhist youth groups. So they had gotten together representatives from all the groups who wanted to attend, and we had a session together about being a Buddhist youth leader. And so they had sent me a bunch of questions which weren't all about leadership. They were about all sorts of things. But anyway, I tried to respond to their questions as well as other things that came up. And they too, really listened well and took it in. And then afterwards we took a group photo and had lots of lively discussion going on, which I think was good for the kids from the different groups to bond together and come together. And then then we packed somehow, because people had given us so many things to take back, and so we couldn't take all of it back. Ruby, who's coming in August, will have some of it, but we packed as much as we could into our bulging suitcases, which fortunately don't have many clothes in them. Yeah. So so that worked out well. And then at the airport, again, it was so sweet. It was like the really essential group of FOSA who does all the planning, and really what they had done, how much they worked together so well. They say maybe it's because they just work together once a year when I come, but they're so harmonious and so helpful to each other, and very welcoming to new people to come in and help. And they do excellent work. The Chenrezig sadhana for Gautami, for Chenrezig Hall that they developed is gorgeous, and the card with the swatch from the Buddha's robe, again, gorgeous. And they just kind of go about and do all these things without making a big deal about it, And when I was commenting to Chun Fa about how beautiful this was, because he was the main person who did the work, he said, "Oh, no, tell Lawrence how good it looks," because he wanted Lawrence to, get some of the credit. So just, this whole attitude of serving without glorifying oneself in any way, and completely happy to do it, because they were out there. Every time I was teaching, they were there early with the books, and you know, prayer requests and all of this stuff, and then in the evening having to pack up the books and go through all the prayer requests, and so they're working really, really hard, you know. And the only ones that have visited us is Kenru and Ruby, and then Chunfa and Jessie for the 2 days they were here. Everybody else, oh, and Lingpo had been here, but all the other people hadn't been here, but just their complete love of the Abbey and wanting what we do to be successful, and you know, chipping in and helping just because they have kind hearts, yeah, and really not making a big deal out of themselves. It was really, and so generous, unbelievably generous. So it's a very good example for us. I mean, I look at people like that and I say, oh, this is what I want to be like, you know. And so the generosity I'm offering is different, you know, to the generosity of the Dharma, but with the same kind of mind state that they have, because it's really quite inspiring. Yeah. But I think the visit turned out quite well, and they seemed happy enough. And we were happy. Although I must say, just getting on the plane and I don't have to talk to anybody was really kind of a relief, because I was at the end, you know, conserving every little smidgen of energy, because my voice was really, you know, at the end of the line, but it worked out quite well. So rejoice.